I'm joined once again by Zak Ottow, who's going to be taking on Mike Pyle coming up here at UFC 222 on March 3rd. Zak, what's going on? How are you?
Doing great.
Awesome. Good to hear. Now, did I just catch you after practice, or are you going to practice now?
I got one session in today, and then going back for some more later on. Yesterday was a rest day for me, so now I got a couple tough days in a row here.
Good stuff. And, of course, I got to say congratulations. You signed a new contract with the UFC. How did this all come together with you, re-upping with the premier organization in mixed martial arts?
One of my original contract was for four fights, so now that those 4 fights are done, I was looking to get into my next contract here, but we wanted to see what fight was going to be this one coming up, and that would kind of determine money-wise, where my next contract would start at and stuff like that. So signed another 4-fight contract, but feeling pretty excited about this one. Mike Pyle is a guy that I was a big fan of for a long time, so it'll be a pretty cool experience getting a chance to fight him.
Yeah,
in Las Vegas too.
And I was going to say he's a pretty notable name too. Like you mentioned, Mike's fought for so many organizations, and he's been in the UFC for a while. I think people forget, some of the guys that he's fought, like Rory McDonald, and I mean he's just been in there for a while. So it's a nice feather in your cap. But before we talk about that fight, quickly we'll talk about your last fight. I know things didn't go your way in that one. What did you sort of take away from that performance against Jingling Lee back at UFC Fight Night 122?
As far as the preparation and everything, there's really not much I could have changed. I thought it was my best training camp to date. It was my best weight cut I ever had, down to 170. So everything was going pretty smooth. But, at this level, if you make any major mistakes in there, they're going to capitalize. So just kind of felt like I was trying to rush some exchanges as we got towards past the halfway point of the first round, trying to win the round. And I forced a kick that wasn't there and just, made a mental mistake. Pretty much just kind of forget and move on is kind of the theme there. I don't really feel like there's any major holes or, things that I need to change in my training camp. Just kind of learn to look past it and move on to the next one.
And I think you said it perfectly there, patience and, maybe not rushing things. That's sort of what you can kind of take away into this fight as well, which is always a good thing. You always learn, right? That's always important. Let's talk about Mike Pyle, though. 27, 13-1. He's got so many fights. How do you feel like you match up against him?
I think I match up really well. Back in the day when a lot of people were still pretty one-dimensional, he was one of those pioneers in the sport that was well-rounded. I feel like I'm very well-rounded as well, and he's a chess player out there, which I can do as well. But I also want to get back to my finishing ways. It seems like if guys stay aggressive early on, he's got a little trouble with that. So I feel like I can be aggressive early on, but if the fight does go late into the second or third round, I feel like I can play that chess match with him too and win some rounds. He's 42 years old, so I'm in the prime of my athletic career. I'm going to try to put the pace on him and stay aggressive. And if the finish comes, that's what I'm looking for. And if it doesn't, I don't think, him at his age can keep up with me. So.
Well, not just that. He hasn't fought in a while. I mean, he hasn't fought since, I think, December of 2016. And I know he's a veteran. He's in the gym, training and everything like that. But how much of that in-cage time do you think that sort of will impact him in this fight, not having that?
Like you said, he's got a lot of fights, so I don't think there's gonna be ring rust or anything. But as far as where he's at mentally, has he already kind of checked out and moving on to the next thing in his life, or I don't really know why all of a sudden he decided to take, is this going to be his last fight? I'm not sure. I'm not really too concerned about it. I feel confident about the matchup and ready to get to it.
So who have been some of your main training partners for this camp? Is it just sort of business as usual, keeping things the same?
Yeah, I didn't have a ton of notice again for this fight. It came up pretty quickly. There was some talks about possibly taking the opening for the Alex Morono fight that's going to happen this weekend. So I was kind of quickly trying to get my weight down for that. That was going to be kind of a short notice thing. And then Josh Berkman ended up getting that matchup. But here I've been real serious training and getting my weight down, because my name was getting tossed around. potential for that matchup. And then as soon as I found out that that wasn't going to happen, I found out that the Mike Pyle fight was going to happen. So just kind of, ran them together. Not a ton of time to prepare for this one, but adequate enough. I'm a coach and stuff, so I'm always in the gym training. I haven't taken any trips out of town or anything like that, but the people at our gym, all my teammates and my students and stuff are excellent training partners, and a lot of people coming up that are getting closer and closer to that UFC call-up themselves.
That's great. Yeah, it's always nice to stick with the guys that you have and sort of grow with them as they sort of say. What's that like though? You just talked about the fact that you thought you might have been fighting Moreno on this upcoming card here, and then it gets switched. Like, does that impact you at all mentally? Sure, it's a little bit better because you get a little bit more time.
Yeah, I didn't mind the extra time, and I like the matchup. I like the location. I've been traveling all over the world the last 3 fights, and hearing that it's going to be in Las Vegas. It's not too bad of a plane trip, and we have all the amenities of being in the States and Las Vegas. So I'm pretty excited about all that.
And I imagine the weight cut's going well, just with the fact you thought you might have been fighting on this card, and now you get a little bit more of a break.
Yeah, and I've also switched up my strength and conditioning a little bit, and that's helped as well with keeping my weight down, keeping my bulk down. I tend to put on a little bit more football weight in between fights. I don't get fat, but I just kind of fill out, and the scale starts to creep up over 200 pounds. So I've been able to keep my weight under 200 pounds in between fights, and it makes it much more manageable as well.
How do you see this fight unfolding on March 3rd? I mean, you're going to win. You wouldn't have taken the fight, but how do you sort of see it playing out?
Like I was saying before, I think I can go back to my finishing ways here, like I did on the regional level coming up, finishing all my fights, stay aggressive early on. And that's when he seems to have the most trouble with people. If it doesn't happen then, I know I can play that chess match with him and, keep the pace up. Like I said before, I don't think he can keep up with me just with the age difference. And I'm super, super hungry for this fight. This may be his last fight. Even if he loses, he's making more money than I am winning. So, I don't know what his motivation, how much motivation he has for this fight, but I know I have a lot. So I'm going in there refusing to lose.
And I mentioned off the top, your last fight was in November, and here we have this fight coming up here. How active are you looking to be this year as far as, fights? Do you have sort of an ideal timetable?
Depending on how this fight goes, there's a Chicago card coming up in June. That would be a sweet turnaround if I come out all healthy and ready to go again. Maybe get something close to home. Maybe wear the other tape for once. This is going to be my 5th time in a row coming out first with the blue tape on. Maybe I can get some red tape around my wrists. Other than that, there's been maybe some rumors that the UFC could come to Milwaukee, with it being the Harley-Davidson 115th anniversary coming up in late August, early September. If that happens, well then, I got to be on that card.
It's a given. I mean, come on, they got to put you on there, right? Like it's got to happen. That's it. And Milwaukee, obviously, Rufus Sports there, and they have all those fighters and stuff like it. I think that's a great idea. I don't know why they haven't been there sooner.
Milwaukee's really turning into a hub of high level fighters. I think Milwaukee has more people training that fight at a high level than Chicago, and Chicago's a way bigger city than us. So definitely becoming a great place to train if you're a Midwest fighter.
Just got 2 more questions for you. We're just coming off Valentine's Day. Did you do anything for Valentine's Day this year, or did you just get in training?
Looking at my girlfriend right now. She laughed. I get pretty focused when I have fights come up. So usually whatever holiday happens to be right before a fight kind of gets pushed off to the wayside, unfortunately. We did a little something. She made a nice little lobster dinner after my training when I got home, but nothing too big.
See, what you got to do is put the heart chocolates in the freezer and then just give it to her after the fight and say, "Hey, I didn't forget, by the way." So there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome.
Good tip.
Before I let you go, what are you watching on TV right now? What's getting you through training camp as far as Netflix or anything like that? See, I asked the tough questions here, Zach.
Oh man, this is a funny question you asked because well, The Bachelor's on right now.
Okay.
And I got sucked into it. So
see that the key thing here in this conversation is that you already mentioned you have a girlfriend. So if we had just assumed that you're a single guy and you're watching The Bachelor, completely different story. But you're off the hook on that one because everyone's got that obligation. I hear you, man.
yeah,
So.
well, and it's good drama, you know. I got sucked into it pretty quick. I'm pretty into this season that's going on right now. So yeah, I guess that's what I'm watching on TV.
Good stuff. Well, hey, admitting it is the first step, and that's great, man. But everyone's got to check out this fight. It's UFC 222 coming up here March 3rd. Zach, I always appreciate you taking the time, man. Just remind people where they can find you on social media, and if you got any sponsors or shout-outs, the floor is yours.
Yeah, you can find me on social media, Facebook and Instagram. I'm just under my name, Zak Ottow. And then on Twitter, I have a handle @TheBarbarianMMA. And just a big shout out to one of my sponsors here, Ink Gun Clothing. You know, they make my fight t-shirts and stuff like that, and they have a lot of good apparel. You can check them out at inkgunclothing.com, and just want to show a good shout out to them.
What's up, fight fans? If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to see even more interviews with your favorite UFC and Bellator fighters. We've also got coverage at events, including post-fight press conferences and media scrums. And if you like this video, check out the video to my right. It's worth your time.